Welcome to the Recon Trader. In today's video, I will share with you how to earn up to 70% APY on Luna UST by leveraged yield farming on the Terra blockchain via the Mars protocol. Now, if you're not familiar with Mars protocol, you can jump over to their website at marsprotocol.io. However, as good as the website looks, there's not a whole lot of intel over here on their website. There are really just some generic paragraphs, so there's not a whole lot of recon you can actually do from the website itself. Now, the leveraged yield farming I will be doing by the end of this video is via the fields of Mars. But again, there's not a whole lot of intel on the website about that. You actually need to get to their docs in order to gain any real intel on what Mars protocol is all about. And the easiest way I found to get to their docs actually was to launch the app. So you just come up here and click on Launch App. And so that will bring you over here to the Red Bank, which is one of the different features available within the app. And down at the bottom of the page, if you scroll down, you can find their docs in the bottom left-hand corner. If you give that a click, it will pull up the documentation available so you can actually do your own recon. Now, with that being said, leveraged yield farming does entail some risk, so you definitely want to do your own recon and fully understand what you're getting into and the risk involved with leveraged yield farming. And the key word there is leveraged. So if you're familiar with what leverage means, that means there is the possibility of getting liquidated. So again, there is risk involved. You need to do your recon, and only you at the end of the day are responsible for your decisions. The intel I'm providing with this video is intended for informational purposes only and is not to be considered investment advice. Do your own recon. And with that all being said, let's get into the weeds on what Mars protocol is about, and more importantly, the leveraged yield farming that I'm actually interested in as far as what Mars protocol offers. Now, they claim that Mars is a credit protocol for the future. It looks like their mission is to be non-custodial, open source, transparent, algorithmic, and community governed. They basically have three primary components, and the Red Bank is kind of where you can deposit and thus lend out your funds, or you can borrow assets. Now, I'm not really interested in the Red Bank at all. I'm more interested in the fields of Mars, and that is where users can interact with applications built on top of the Red Bank, such as leveraged yield farming. And that is also known as contract-based borrowing, and that is the feature I am most interested in when it comes to Mars protocol at this point in time. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump ahead to the fields of Mars, give that a click. And so basically in the fields of Mars, users are able to interact with specialized smart contracts that exist outside of and separate from the Red Bank. And again, the Red Bank is kind of a place for you to deposit and earn a very small yield on your deposits, or you can borrow at a very low rate. Now, that is somewhat separate from what we will be doing in the fields of Mars, but we will be pre-authorized to borrow from the Red Bank without posting any collateral. Thus, that's where you get the leverage comes in. This type of borrowing is known as contract-to-contract or C2C borrowing. It enables applications or apps to be built on top of the Red Bank for specific purposes. The first such use case for C2B borrowing is the leveraged yield farming. Now, I have actually read through pretty much all the documentation here available. I'm not going to do that today in this video. Again, you will need to do your own recon. But I do want to jump over to the field's liquidation mechanics, as I think it is important for you to understand. Again, there is the possibility of getting liquidated, and so the smart contracts that wish to utilize C2C borrowing must have liquidation logic implemented that ensures their ability to repay regardless of market conditions. So for an example of how liquidation logic might work, we can take a look at the mere USDT leveraged yield farming strategy. In this case, a user's asset is in the form of staked Mir UST LP tokens if the value of these LP tokens falls below the liquidation threshold, defined as a percentage of the user's debt. Anyone can close the position. Now, I will show you what that actually looks like when we get ready to deploy one of these strategies. It'll be a little easier to see with the graphics that they provide when you're setting up your yield farm versus just these words here. But the bottom line is, if you end up getting liquidated, the UST portion is immediately used to pay back the debt. And an appropriate amount of Mir, in this case, is the token you actually supplied, is sold for UST, which is the token you are borrowing, to cover an outstanding debt. Among the remaining assets, a portion is rewarded to the liquidator, and the rest is refunded to the user. So it is possible that you get liquidated, but you still get back some of your tokens, assuming their value is greater than the UST that you borrowed. Now, there's a lot more intel that you can go through over here on the left-hand side of the menu. You can see there are a whole lot of tabs you can dive into and do your recon. But I think I've done enough jaw-jacking, so I will leave it up to you to do your own recon. So we're going to jump into this leveraged yield farming. And so we jump back over here to the app. And again, the red bank is where you can make your deposits or borrow. But if you prefer absolutely low risk, maybe that's for you. It's definitely not for me. So we're going to jump over here at the top of the screen to fields, give that a click, and that will bring us over to the farm the fields of Mars. Now, currently the available strategies are somewhat limited to Mir UST, Luna UST, and Anchor UST. And you can see the leverage amount is 2x on all three of these strategies. The APY is a little deceiving listed here. It's essentially assuming you're doing 1x leverage, not the 2x leverage. So the current APY for Luna UST that we will be doing is almost 45% if I used absolutely no leverage. Now, the credit line, as you can see for both Mir and Luna, is marked at 100% used. So technically, if that is true, I will not be able to get any leverage because I need to go borrow UST. And apparently, it says those credit lines are 100% used. However, even though this says 100% used, I have found that at times, if I check back, I am able to eventually go ahead and get one of these strategies deployed. But in order to do so, I'm going to need a Terra Station wallet. So if you don't already have a Terra Station wallet, you will need to go and download the Terra Station wallet, which is very similar to a MetaMask wallet, only it operates on the Terra blockchain. And you can see I have my Terra Station wallet, and I have 10 Luna and 1,000 UST. Now, with that being said, you're going to need Luna in order to start farming, and you may need a little bit of UST depending on how much leverage you're looking to take out. Also, you will need some of those tokens in order to pay fees when you go ahead and execute one of these strategies, much like anytime you execute anything in MetaMask. You need a little bit of that token on your MetaMask wallet to cover any fees or gas fees type situations. Now, if you're wondering where you can buy Luna or UST, I use KuCoin to buy my Luna and UST and then send it to my Terra Station wallet. Or as a last option, you could click on buy here on Mars Protocol if you don't hold any of those tokens. But since I hold both Luna and UST, I am ready to click on farm. As you can see, it is highlighted and ready to go. But before you click on farm, if you haven't already, I suggest you click on read the manual. I've already done all my recon, so I'm ready to click farm, so I'll just give that a click. Now that will bring up the parameters that I need to adjust my Luna supply and my UST supply. So if I click over here to say 50% of my Luna tokens, which would be 5 Luna, you can see I currently have 10 Luna in my Terra Station wallet. Now I would be ready to adjust my UST supply. And as I mentioned earlier, you can see the credit line for this strategy is exhausted. So I need to adjust my position in a way that does not borrow any additional UST. So I have found sometimes you can make adjustments to your UST supply so you're borrowing less. So if I say try to borrow 50%, well, that still was not enough to then borrow the remaining 50%. And so if I jump over here to 100%, now I am basically not borrowing anything. And if we take a look at the leverage of 1x, you can see my APY would only be 44, almost 45%. And at the end of the day, I don't really run the risk of being liquidated. The only risk I run at this point is if the price of Luna goes down. Obviously, the value of my position would go down, but I'd still be earning APY. Now, if I jump my UST back to the 50%, you can see down here that my APY jumps to almost 60% and my leverage would be 1.33x. And basically the liquidation price down here, Luna would have to drop to less than $13.82. Not very likely, but possible. Now, if I wanted to get the full 2x leverage, again, I can drop this to 0. And then you can see my APY jumps to right now almost 90%. So it's even better than the 70% I was seeing earlier. That would have leverage of 2x. And the liquidation price at that point would be if Luna dropped below 55.29. Now that could definitely happen. What you might want to do is take a look at a chart for Luna and see where that liquidation price shows up on the chart in relation to the current price action. And in this case, we can see Luna's up here around $93. There's a level of support at $75. And then the next real level of support is going to be down here around the $65 range. And then that liquidation price was down here at $55. So just before the next real level of support around $50. So if you want to be a little more conservative, you might want to adjust your leverage over here on Morris Protocol so that the liquidation price is perhaps closer to the $50 range. Let's say we bump this up to 25% of UST that I will provide. That bumps my leverage down to 1.6x, and now the liquidation price is $31 and my APY would be almost 72%. That would definitely reduce your risk, but nonetheless, you will need to keep on top of Luna's price in relationship to this liquidation price when you actually do deploy one of these strategies, because you definitely do not want to get liquidated. Now, during the time that I've been doing all this jaw jacking, I can actually borrow a little bit now. Before, I could not borrow anything. All the available collateral was used, but I would still need to provide 75%, and my leverage at that point would be just over 1x. My APY would be 51%, and the liquidation price for Luna would be $3.45. I think that would be fairly safe. And so now I could come down here and click farm. It is highlighted, it's available, and you can see there's a transaction fee of 55 cents UST. So again, you will need some UST left over in your wallet. You wouldn't necessarily be able to use all the UST in your wallet as collateral because you do need to pay that fee, and you'll probably also need the fee to close out this position. And if I continue to click around in here, now I'm down to 63%. I still could borrow that amount. But again, the leverage is only at around 1.23% and my APY is only around 55%. For this to be worthwhile for me to do, I really want to be around the 70% APY or higher. And so I can continue to wait until more collateral becomes available for me to borrow, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so as soon as that collateral is available, I'll start recording again and get this strategy deployed. Alright, so it's been a couple of days and now liquidity is finally available over here on Mars Protocol. And so I will hopefully be able to get this deployed now. And so I'm basically looking to supply about 50% of my current supply of Luna in my Terra Station wallet, which is basically 5 Luna. And if I decide to provide 0% of my UST, thus basically taking the full 2x leverage on this position, you can see the API I would earn would be 75.62%. And that would give me a liquidation price of around $48.48. Now, if I decide to supply some of this UST, it will lower my APY, but it also lowers the liquidation price. And so I'm okay providing a little bit of liquidity, let's say 8%, and that takes my APY to 70%, but my liquidation price drops down to $41 basically. So let's go ahead and open this position. All I need to do is come down here now and click farm. And I just need to confirm the transaction, click post. Transaction is pending. Transaction was successful, and so now basically my position is 5 Luna and just about 33 UST. And keep in mind, anytime you are doing any staking or any involvement with your Terra Station wallet, you need to make sure you have some extra UST for these transaction fees. So I click close. And so now if we take a look at the overview of my position, the position value is 819. I borrowed 376, which brings my net worth of the actual position to $442.64. You can see my yield is approximately 70%. My estimated daily income will be 81 cents a day. And then my unrealized P&L is $1.47. Now, since this is an overview, if I had any additional positions, they would be included in this figure. If we come down here to my active strategies, you can see I only have the one active strategy. And again, the net value is at 442. The position value is the 819.60. The amount I borrowed is again the 376.91. The P&L is currently at $1.30. APY 70%. My leverage was 1.85, and then my liquidation price is at 41. Now, if I click on manage, I can close the position. I could supply more UST in order to reduce my leverage, and therefore that would reduce my liquidation price. It looks like I could also add some Luna if I wanted to take on a little larger position. And so, for instance, if I wanted to add some Luna, I could jack that up to say 75%. However, right now the credit line for this strategy has been exhausted, and so in order to do this, I would need to add some of my own UST in order to deploy this strategy. And then if we come down here, you can see the after update versus the current position and how those positions have changed. And my APY obviously has dropped to 43.46. If I made this change, the leverage would be less. Obviously now it's only 1.15x, and the liquidation price would be $3.30. And so if I wanted to go ahead and do that, I could click confirm, but I am going to go ahead and stick with my current position. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Now I will do an update video in the near future, so now would be a good time to shoot that subscribe button. If you like this video, do me a favor, spike a like. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. And if you have actually joined the Recon Trader YouTube channel membership, I will see your loyalty badge next to your name in the comments, and that will ensure that I answer your questions first. Now, with that all being said, if you're interested in deploying your own strategy over here on Mars Protocol, I will drop a link in the description down below. So, in closing, remember, never send your money into battle without first doing your recon. See you in the next video.